In this video, I'd like to go over the new chronic conditions module. It's different than the old chronic conditions template that we had previously. This is brand new and works a little different. I've started playing around with it a fair bit recently, and I think in the long run it's actually going to be a good time saver and also help keep a degree of order in my notes, particularly making sure that I'm carrying forward the same ICD-10 codes over and over again. And I think it will help with some simplification, particularly if they're here for follow-up on chronic conditions. So a couple of important things to remind you of. First of all, in the history section or the little house icon over here, going to the problem list. So in this new problem list, as I mentioned on the previous video, you have the ability to make some notes, and these notes, where they'll come in to be more important, is when you start using the chronic conditions module. So I've put a note in here on their coronary artery disease that they see Dr. Ali, and you'll see where that becomes more useful. So as I mentioned previously, you can actually start charting things right from here if you'd like. But if you've built out your problem list relatively well, then where you can go, if my computer wants to play along, is over here in the reason for visit. It's this new icon here, the chronic conditions module. You launch this, and first of all, always good, take a look at the full screen. So this is where you'll do most of your work, but down below you've actually got some old information on diagnostics, and you've also got their care guidelines if you want to see when and where things were done in the past. So it's all on that one page, but this is where you'll generally work things. So if they're here for a regular follow-up, you could simply, this is a general statement that applies to everything. So patient, if I could spell, feels great and no. This could also be where you use a my phrase potentially. You could have a phrase of patients here for 6-month follow-up, no new complaints, remains compliant. Most of you are probably going to start like this, which may be 0 in your chronic conditions bar over here. But if you unclick this, this pulls in all of what you have up here in the problem list. Now this is a good time to probably discuss again the difference between problems and chronic conditions. So chronic conditions are also problems, but not all problems maybe are chronic conditions. So for example, in this particular patient, she has a history of breast cancer, and that's a good thing to have in the problem list, but it's not a chronic condition that I'm necessarily going to be following. Similarly with the history of the MI, that's more informational, and I encourage you guys to use in this problem list, you can use history of appendectomy, history of just about anything, and that way you hover over this and very quickly you can learn a lot. Where this is helpful for me, for example, is if a patient came in with abdominal pain, I hover over this and see that they have a history of appendectomy, then I can take that out of my differential right away. Anyhow, so make things that are truly chronically followed chronic conditions. So I've unchecked it. This shows all of their items. So let's say they're following up on their coronary artery disease. So I can see that's already listed as chronic. Generally, for coding credit, you want to comment on it here. So let's say it's stable. Now, remember that note that I had back in their histories problem list section that they follow with Dr. Ali? So it's in here, but that will not end up on their printed note. To end up on the printed note, though, simply hit this arrow button, pulls it over, and this is the HPI, just like on your, just like on the front page of your SOAP note. So follows with Dr. Ali, no chest pain or put that in there, and then down here for your phrases, if you've got a my phrase, you can go ahead and use it in that case. Add an update, sorry for that. And then you can see number 1's already down there. So number 2, let's say they're here for their Lyme disease. I had forgotten to put it as a chronic problem, so now I'll take that opportunity. Let's say that this is currently, oh, what the heck, we'll say stable. Now, this was an old note that I'd put in there, probably not too relevant to today, so, and then whatever, yeah. All right, add an update. Degenerative disc disease, there was a note in there that needed more pain meds. Again, I should mark this as chronic. So this one will say that we are uncontrolled. Down here, alright, add an update, and you can sort of see how you get the hang of this. So it's important to look at things, and again, if it's going to be chronic, if it's not showing up in this list, uncheck this box. Should give you the full list of everything and problems. If it's not in your chronic problems list, obviously this is where you can go ahead and add it, and then again, make sure it's chronic if it's something you're following regularly. Once you've identified it, make sure you comment on the assessment status. That gives you credit with the insurance folks. If there was a note that you had in there, it will show up here. Make sure to add it over into this box. Your plan is down here, so whether you did your plan under patient details or you do your plan under provider details, remember this is the one the patient can't see and this is the one the patient can see. So when you're all done with that, save and close. And next gen gets us almost there but confuses us. So you've done all that work, it's all in there, and you can't see diddly squat here. Hooray, next gen. Basically, you just sort of have to, if I recall correctly, refresh it, and then boom, it shows you that this is present here. The other nice thing that's already gone ahead and done is down here in your assessment plan section, it's already built all that out for you. So all you need to do at this point is your physical exam, and you're pretty much done with your note except for labs or anything like that that you'd like to order. And that's pretty much how that chronic conditions template seems to work. I'm sure as we get more familiar with working with this as it comes out, I think it will be an enhancement for those of us dealing with chronic conditions. But as you find out any other tricks with this, please let me know.